Click right there. Hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you're ready to learn a little bit about natural places. We'll start in 40 seconds once I make sure everything is working. Say hi to a few people in the chat. Yeah, we'll start. Sounds like everything's working perfectly. We'll start in 20 seconds. So I hope you have come with pen and pencil, or pen or pencil and a piece of paper to take some notes. We'll start in 10 seconds and we'll learn a little bit about natural places in the world. 3, 2, 1. Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about natural places. It's summer here in Canada, so it is enjoyable to go to see some of the natural places around me. It's fun to be outdoors. So today I'll teach you about, I think, just over 30 words. No phrases today, all vocabulary words, English vocabulary words about different natural places that you can visit. A few of these, I think, are only in North America. Some of these are only in other parts of the world, but most of them are common English words that you need to know if you want to talk about natural places. And you might be wondering, what's a natural place? Well, heads up, some of the simpler ones: a beach is a natural place, a marsh is a natural place, and a geyser is a natural place. And I'll talk about those three and more in this English lesson about natural places. But hey, before we get started, I do have to mention one thing. This is a repeat lesson by accident. So I had this good idea. I saw the word oasis in an advertisement, and I thought I should do a lesson on natural places. And so I started to brainstorm words, and I got about 25, 30 words together, did some research. And as I was making the lesson, I kept thinking, this seems really familiar. I think I've done this before. And so I checked my folder. I did a search in my folder and I couldn't find anything. And then I was finishing making the lesson last night and I thought, I've done this lesson before. So I went and I searched again, and I actually found in an older folder notes on this lesson, and it's only from a year ago. So this is a completely new version of an old lesson. Remember, repetition is good when you are learning a language, so you'll get a slightly different interpretation on these things. But yeah, and you probably have forgotten some of these words in the last year. So a little bit of a repeat lesson. I think last time it was called This Amazing World. And I do know that there's a slight overlap. But anyways, enough about that. Please use the chat to have fun English conversations with each other. Please use the link in the chat to ask questions. Please, if you want to speak other languages, this isn't a great place. This is an English lesson. It's a great opportunity for you to actually practice your English. Freddie Wolf in the chat says, Bob, have you had your birthday ceremony yet? I will not confirm whether I have had my birthday yet. Do I look a year older? I don't know. I think I look a bit younger. Let's see here. Hafiez says, I saw a viral video on a geyser eruption in Yellowstone recently. That is another reason why I made this lesson. I also saw that on the news, Hafiez. So it was very cool. What was I going to say? I think I've said everything that I need to say. If you have questions, please use the forum to ask them. And let's get this lesson started. Does that sound good? Here we go. Oasis. So an oasis, first of all, it's a fun word to say. Oasis. Oasis. It's also a band, I think, but they might spell it differently. An oasis is a place, usually in the desert, where there is some water. So if you were walking through the desert and you saw trees up ahead, you think to yourself, there must be water there. It must be an oasis. So if you ever find yourself walking through the desert and you see trees ahead, it will probably be an oasis, a place where you can find some water. Hopefully it's not a mirage. A mirage is like when you think you see something and then it's actually your imagination or the wind and the sand playing tricks on you. But an oasis is a beautiful place in the desert, usually where you can get a drink of water. If the water is safe to drink, you can go and get some at an oasis. Geyser. So a geyser is an interesting phenomenon. It's when water in the ground, it heats up and then it shoots out of the ground. Water and steam shoot out of the ground because deep in the Earth's crust, there is some sort of hot rock or lava, something that's heating up water and making it shoot up out of the ground. As was mentioned, there was recently a geyser that I guess exploded almost in Yellowstone. I think it was Yellowstone, where there was so much force from the water and steam that it actually it kind of shot up a little more vigorously than normal. I don't think anyone was hurt, but anyways, a geyser, hot steam and water that shoots out of the ground. And a hot spring. As with a geyser, sometimes water is heated up in the earth and comes to the surface. A hot spring is a naturally occurring pool of water that is very, very hot. Sometimes it's just the right temperature and you can go swimming in a hot spring. But sometimes a hot spring is too hot to touch or to go in. But sometimes there are areas where you can go to hot springs because they might have healing qualities. The hot spring might be said to make your body feel better. I know when I'm really sore from working on the farm, I wish there was a hot spring near us that I could go sit in to soothe my body. A marsh. So the difference between a marsh and a swamp is that a marsh usually doesn't have trees but has lots of water. And it's usually really shallow water. Like if you have really long boots on, like hip waders that go up to here. Do you know they make boots that go up to here? You could probably walk through a marsh. A swamp, on the other hand, is a place with lots of shallow water, but it usually has trees. We have marshes near us. We have some swamps, but not as many as you would have like in Florida or another place like that. But again, a marsh, a place with very shallow water. We sometimes say low-lying water with no trees, but lots of grass and the types of things that grow in shallow water. And a swamp then would have some low-lying water, but also trees growing in it. Kind of a fun word to say, marsh and swamp. A bog. So this is a little hard to explain. A bog is like a marsh, but it also has peat. It has a certain kind of moss that you can find. So a bog is, it's not so much like a marsh has lots of water. A bog has lots of really wet earth with some water. And then you can usually find different kinds of moss, peat moss in particular. In Canada, in some parts of Ontario, we have bogs that are filled with peat moss, and we dig it up and we sell it. It makes really good potting soil. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between a plain and a prairie. A plain is a very flat piece of earth, okay? So if you have mountains, sometimes the mountains end and you have a large plain where it's just flat and you can see for miles and miles. By the way, even though I use kilometers, I still say miles and miles when talking about being able to see really far. In Western Canada and in the Western US, we have what are called the prairies. So a prairie is simply a plain. It's the same thing. It's just a different word, and it's a word we use in North America. So if you go to the province of Saskatchewan, you will see the prairies. We actually call Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and part of Alberta the prairie provinces because there's lots of very, very flat plains, which we call prairie. A dune. A dune is a very, very large pile of sand or a hill made of sand. We have lakes in Ontario. I live close to the Great Lakes, and there are a lot of dunes around the Great Lakes, around some of them. So as you walk to the beach, you walk through the sand dunes to get there. It's very fun. You take your shoes off, you take your socks off, you walk barefoot through the dunes, and the sand feels really nice on your feet. So a dune is a very large hill made of sand instead of other types of dirt. Like instead of clay or any kind of other dirt, it is a big hill of sand. And there was recently a movie, Dune and Dune 2, which take place on a planet that is mostly sand, 99% sand. And so there are lots of dunes on that planet. It's science fiction, though. It's not real. A cave. A cave is a natural, basically large hole in a rock, one that you can walk into sometimes. So as you look at rock, you sometimes see holes in the rock. And if you can go in, we call this a cave. This may have been someone's house hundreds of years ago. Someone might have lived in a cave. A cave, if it's big enough, would be a natural place to live. If it was 500, 600, 700 years ago or 1,000 years ago, maybe you lived in a cave. But yes, we do not have a lot of caves around here. If I go to the north, there is what's called an escarpment, and there are some caves there. I'll explain what an escarpment is in a bit. But yes, a cave is basically probably water over time remove the rock, or perhaps the rock moved in such a way over time to create what we would call a void in the rock, an area in the rock that you could go into if you wanted to. A bay. So a bay is a large protected area of water connected to a lake or ocean or the sea. So you can see here, there's usually one entrance to a bay, but it's kind of sheltered. Like if you have a big lake, there might be a bay at the bottom of the lake where it has kind of an entrance to the lake, but the bay itself is kind of separate. It's usually a curve. A bay usually has a curve to it. You can see this one is shaped like the letter C. But a bay would be a really cool sheltered area close to right on the edge or the shore of a lake or on the coast of the ocean. But hey, let's do some questions. Let me see here how things are going. Let me find the first question here. From Know That. Hello, Bob. Which national parks have you been to? And were you also in one back then when you were in Africa? As always, thank you, sir. Yes, so when I was in South Africa, we went to the really big park. The name eludes me right now. Really big park in South Africa. Kruger. Yes, I have been to Kruger National Park in South Africa. In Canada, I have been to Algonquin, which I think is a provincial park. I don't know if I've been to any American national parks. I would have to think about that one for a bit. Off the top of my head, it's hard to remember. But no, I haven't been to any. I haven't been to a lot of national parks, but they are very nice. By the way, a national park is a park that the government makes sure is always clean and open and nice to visit. From Ruslan, hello, Teacher Bob. How are you today, sir? Good. What would you like to see more, the Northern Lights or a volcano eruption? Well, I've seen the Northern Lights, so I'd have to go with volcanic eruption would be the one that I would see. I would love to see a volcano erupt from a safe distance, of course. I wouldn't want to be too close when that happens. From Denis, bonjour Bob. You've been to Niagara Falls, watched the solar eclipse. What other natural wonders would you like to see? I would like to see the Grand Canyon. I'll talk about canyons in a bit, but the Grand Canyon is one thing I would love to visit. It's probably It's pretty high on my list. I would love to see the Grand Canyon. If you don't know what it is, do a search for Grand Canyon. I would also like to see the Rocky Mountains from the Alberta side. I'd love to go to Banff and other places to see that. That would be really, really fun. From Aram, what's the difference between hiking and trekking? So here in Canada, I use the term hiking. I think trekking is used in other forms of English, but in Canada, you would say, I'm going to go for a hike. I'm going to go hiking later today. So that's, I think they're basically the same thing. Hiking might be a little more rugged. I don't know. Let's check. We don't use the word trekking here in Canada very often, or at least I don't. Hiking is a shorter, easier journey. Trekking involves going to a specific destination. Okay, there we go. I think trekking might be a little more British. Yeah. From Fabio. Hi, Bob. Are a cove and a bay the same thing, or are there any differences? Thanks a lot. A cove might be a little more sheltered. Like when I hear the word bay, it would be like a large area like what I showed in the photo. A cove, I picture it being a little smaller and a little more sheltered and protected from the larger ocean or sea. Azan says hi. Hi, Azan. Thank you for saying hi. Let's see here. From Young from South Korea. Hi, Bob. I always follow your work. Well, thank you, Young. And I like it. Does Canada have that aurora phenomenon? Yeah, we have aurora borealis, or the northern lights. You can see them from my farm once in a while. I know when I was younger, I saw them a few times. Lately, though, I haven't. You have to go really far north in order to see those. You have to get away from the city lights as well. Let's see, from Kurdish, a slowly moving mass of ice formed by the accumulation and compact. What is this natural Caledonian of snow on the mountains? This would be a glacier, and I'll talk about glaciers in a bit. That is basically a large river of ice and snow that moves along very slowly. Nastran, hello, dear Bob. How are you? What's the difference between a bay and a gulf? I think a gulf is much larger. We have the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of the St. Lawrence. I think a bay is a natural sheltered area, whereas a gulf, if I think of all the gulfs in the world, they're very large on a world map. So that would be, in my mind, the difference between the two. Let me get a sip of water here, and if another question pops up, I'll answer it. And then we'll get back to the lesson. Garov says hiking is short, and I think it depends where you are, Garov, because here we would use the term hiking quite often, for sure. Know that says Brent has a great video from the Grand Canyon. Yes, check out Brent's channel, American English with Brent, and do a search for Grand Canyon. That would be very, very cool. Let's see here. Let me check if there's any other question. If not, let's get back to the lesson. Here we go. An archipelago. Now, I used to pronounce this wrong. Even English speakers sometimes say words wrong, but it's archipelago. This is a series of islands, usually in a row. There are many of these in the world. Like, I'm pretty sure Hawaii is an archipelago. I think Japan is an archipelago. I think anytime you have a series of islands, this is the term you would use. I guess it's probably an underwater mountain range, and you can just see the tops of the mountains. Does that make sense? That's what most islands are, the top of an undersea mountain, I think. But an archipelago, a series of islands that kind of form a chain. Sometimes we use that term as well, a chain of islands. A lagoon. So a lagoon is a mostly enclosed area of water, salt water, which means it's part of the ocean, where there might be one little area to enter. So different than a bay. This lagoon, as you can see, is mostly enclosed, mostly surrounded by land. So a lagoon is a big area on an island or on the coast of by an ocean where you have it is a body of water that is connected to the ocean by a certain section, but it is just kind of enclosed on almost every side. This one looks beautiful, by the way, the beautiful blue color of that lagoon. Very, very neat, very, very cool. A cliff. So a simpler one. A cliff is simply a sheer drop where the land ends and goes almost straight down. We call this a cliff. You might walk to the edge of a cliff and look down and see water. You might walk to the edge of a cliff and look down and simply see land. A cliff can happen along the coast. A cliff can happen just anywhere. It can happen in a mountain range. Some people like to climb cliffs. I don't like to climb. I'm afraid of heights. And some people like to go cliff jumping into water. I don't like doing that either. But a cliff is a very sharp drop off of usually a mountain or other rocky area. A delta. So a delta is an area where a large river flows into a lake or ocean. So you can see here, as a river gets close to a larger body of water, it will start to split. And we call this split, this whole area is called a delta. If you follow the Mississippi River in the United States, you get to the Mississippi Delta, where the Mississippi flows into the Gulf of Mexico. So a delta is the area where a river flows into a larger body of water, and it usually breaks into different little, I don't know what you would call those, rivulets maybe, but it breaks into smaller little tributaries and flows into a larger body of water. A canyon. So a canyon is a large area, usually with a river or stream in the bottom, where I think the river has eroded the rock over time. And so you have this higher area, and then you have the canyon. So if you go to the Grand Canyon, you'll just see lots of higher areas like this plateau, and you'll see a lot of lower areas. This lower area is called the canyon. So you have a canyon right here. And again, the Grand Canyon would be a place where I would love to visit. I would love to go and see the Grand Canyon someday with Jen. I should take her on a trip. So there's something called a plateau. I described that far high area as a plateau. This is a plateau. So it's when you have a lower area of land, and then when it goes up, the top part is called a plateau. We also have what's called a butte. This is very North American, very much the United States would have these. A butte is a smaller raised area like that. And then we have a mesa, which is kind of in the middle. So let me go back. These are mostly from the United States Midwest. Plateau is a little more universal, but a plateau is a large flat area. I actually kind of live on a plateau. When you go to the Great Lakes, there's an escarpment, and then I'm kind of on this raised area in the middle. A butte is, of course, a smaller one, butte, and then a mesa would be somewhere in the middle size-wise. So you have three different raised areas. If you watch any American Westerns, like cowboy movies, you will most likely see images like this. You'll see plateaus and buttes and mesas, and you'll hear those words used. A waterfall. I live close to Niagara Falls. That made me thirsty when I said waterfall. I live close to Niagara Falls. It is a large waterfall. A waterfall is where a river or a stream flows over a cliff, basically. And you get what looks like this, a really nice waterfall. Waterfalls can be very loud. There can be lots of spray that comes up off a waterfall. If you go to Niagara Falls, there's an area where there's just mist all the time because water vapor or water is spraying up a little bit and it's just in the air, which makes it really cool in the winter, by the way, because everything around that area freezes really, really nicely. But a waterfall is an area where a river or creek or stream flows over a cliff and goes down to whatever is below. A hill and a valley. So a hill is, of course, a very tall area. It's not a mountain. In my mind, the difference between a hill and a mountain is size, but also what it is made of. You can see this hill is covered in grass. A hill can be covered in grass. It can be covered in trees. It basically is made from dirt. There might be a few rocks here and there, but in my mind, when I think about a hill is something that's covered in grass and trees, and you can climb the hill. If you're someone who likes winter, you might ski down a hill. You can go tobogganing down a hill as well in the winter. But a hill would be made of dirt, a raised area formed from dirt with lots of grass and maybe trees on it. A valley, as opposed to a mountain, which is mostly rocks with some trees that get smaller and smaller as you go up. Eventually there's no trees, and at the very top there might even be snow. So a hill made of dirt, a mountain made of rock. That would be the simple definition. And then a valley would be the area between two mountains or between two really large hills. So you can see here down in the valley, the part at the very bottom, you can see the mountains come together and you have the valley there. So I would call that a mountain because you can see the rocks. The mountain is very rocky. It does have some grass and trees, but it looks a lot different than a hill. But yes, the area at the bottom I would call a valley. Let's do members only chat a bit early. And let me get that on the screen just because we're moving through this lesson quite well at a good pace. So I think we should do members only chat now, and then we'll finish off the lesson in a bit. So let me explain a little bit what members only chat is. First of all, if you don't leave, if you're not a member, we'll do members only chat where I'll answer questions from the chat from members directly, but I'll also continue to answer these questions here. If you're curious about membership, there is a join button you can click and you can get a sense of what membership is. It's something where you get a lesson plan on Mondays, a self-study guide. You get an extra video on Wednesdays. You get your name in green during a live stream. If you look over there, and you get a small crown beside your name that changes the longer you are a member. So very, very cool. Anyways, if you are members, you may ask questions directly in the chat, and I will get a question up on the screen here. So I'll do this first, then I'll jump down to the chat. From Yunbin, hi Bob from Korea. Are you planning to go to natural places this summer? No, actually the opposite. I'm going to go to a lot of man-made places. We did go to see a Toronto Blue Jays game this past weekend. It was a lot of fun. Jen and I will probably go and see another Blue Jays game later this summer. And mostly we will visit I was going to say the grocery store. We'll probably go to the mall quite a bit. I don't want to give away all my summer plans, but we will probably visit Toronto a bit. So we'll go to a lot of man-made areas instead of natural areas. We will hike in the fall. It's very nice to hike here in the fall. And I will most likely be going to Niagara Falls once later this summer as well. So that should be fun. From the chat, Hafiez is singing Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which is a song. Very cool. And Know That says, I've seen pictures of the frozen Niagara Falls. It looks amazing. It is really cool. The frozen Niagara Falls is awesome. Also from Know That, off topic. Regarding your walking routine, Bob, I was wondering if you still wear your weighted vest and if you've had to increase the weight in the meantime. I haven't. So at the end of last summer, I wore my weighted vest and I had my walking poles. They're called Nordic walking poles. And I actually pulled a muscle. And so I'm a little leery like a little concerned. I don't want to overdo it this summer. So I've just been walking, and I've been focusing more at working out my upper body to make it better exercise. I probably look kind of strange walking down the road because I do a lot of other exercises while I'm walking to make sure I'm exercising my upper body as well. And then some weights when I get home. So anyways, from Naomi, I saw a wild deer when going on a hike last weekend. Deer are cool. Bears are not. So yes, when I hike too, sometimes I see squirrels, rabbits, deer every once in a while. There's no bears in my area, but that would scare me. Freddie Wolf says tonight at 7:30 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics will take place. It will last at least 3 hours and 45 minutes. We hope that all of you will be among the billions of expected TV spectators. So I do want to thank, I think Lolly Lolly's still here, and Freddie Wolf. Thank you for hosting the Olympics on behalf of all of Canada. Thank you, France and Paris in particular, for hosting the Olympics. Merci beaucoup. That's very nice of you. I'm glad that you can be kind of the world stage right now and to help us show off our athletic abilities. So thanks, Freddie, and every single other person from France who is here. Thank you for hosting. Very cool. And take some time to watch the Olympics, people. It's one of the things that I think helps bring the world together. Naomi T says it was at the Yatsushima Marsh. Oh, very cool. So there's a marsh where you can go hiking. Very cool. Hafiez says, the title looks like a desert with a cactus in the foreground, a tree on an isolated island, and a map of Japan. Yes, in the title I put, because of archipelago, I put a map of Japan. Japan is one of the only countries to have an emoji. Did you know that? Very cool. Hafiez is asking if Naomi took pictures. Very cool. And Key Park says it will be 1:30 a.m. here. It's hard to wake up to watch TV. Yes, it can be difficult to get up to watch TV that early in the morning. Okay, let me get a question from the forum. Hello, Teacher Bob. Have you ever driven a car in the desert? It's very cool. I have not. I have never. I've never driven through a desert or walked through a desert, but I have seen the desert from an airplane while flying from Paris to South Africa, to Johannesburg. So out of the window of the plane, I did see the desert. So that was very cool. Let me see here. Next question. I hope as well that everything will go well to give everyone billions of dreams and stars in their eyes. Yes, vive la France. I hope it goes well as well. There's always the like, competition is good. Seeing other countries play other countries in different sports is good, but there's always the worry that something bad might happen. So I agree, Freddie. I hope everything goes extremely well. I hope people have an enjoyable time in Paris, and that would be something I would love to do someday. I would love to go and watch the Olympics live. Maybe Winter Olympics more than summer. I'm not sure, but we would have to see. Naomi says, hi, Hafiez. I didn't have time to take pictures. Unfortunately, the deer disappeared so quickly. That's the thing. When you're enjoying a natural place or when you're enjoying something, sometimes you forget to actually take a picture, or sometimes it's a moment like that where you see a deer and it's just hard to remember to take out your phone and to take a picture. It can be very, very tricky. So let me see here. I'm going to go back to the lesson, people. I know that seems really quick, but as we work through this, I'm not going to go back to the lesson quite yet. Let me turn off members only chat. If I see a member question yet, I will make sure that I do answer it. But let's do this here, back to subscriber mode. And let me just say thank you to all of my members. You're awesome. Members help to run this channel. It allows me to actually spend more time on YouTube than I could because I can work part-time. So thank you, members, for helping to support me, helping me to buy the equipment I need to run a YouTube channel. You are awesome. And again, if you're interested in membership, there is a join button somewhere that you can click and you can get a bit more of an explanation. But But let's finish off this lesson. Here we go. A channel. Now, this is where even I got a little confused. My understanding is that a channel is water that connects two larger bodies of water between two land masses, and that a strait is water that connects two larger bodies of water between two land masses. It got really confusing because even when I was reading the definition, the difference between a channel and a strait, it literally said a channel is a piece of water between two land masses that connects two larger bodies of water, as opposed to a strait, which is a piece of water that connects two larger bodies of water between two land masses. So they're not the same thing, but I don't know the difference, and I don't know if it matters for this lesson. So this is a channel. You might be familiar with the English Channel, which separates England from mainland Europe. So it's a section of the ocean, which we call a channel. And then a strait. There are lots of straits in the world as well. Just a smaller bit of water that connects two larger bits of water. So again, there is a difference. I don't know what it is, but hopefully you will remember it. From Freddie Wolf, I think it will be a wonderful, unforgettable ceremony with many huge surprises. Plus vite, plus haut, plus fort, ensemble. Faster, higher, stronger together. Very cool. And Know That says, you mentioned that one of your children is doing track and field, so maybe we will see one of your children at the Olympics someday. Maybe. That would be amazing. Then I could go as a parent and watch. Kakachen says, channel, a little spelling mistake there. Hafiez, we might talk about a canal later. I made a little mistake. Hafiez says, we need a geography teacher. Yeah, for the difference between that. Let's see. Freddie Wolf, yes, there is a channel between the UK and France. Yes. Okay, let's finish this off. Here we go. A gulf. So someone asked if a gulf and a bay are the same. In my mind, a gulf is usually gigantic. So we have the Gulf of Mexico. It's a huge area surrounded by a lot of land where you can still get out to the ocean. So I think when you look at a map of the world, you will see gulfs, and they are usually quite a bit bigger than a bay. So the Gulf of Mexico is the most familiar to me. Many people in Canada will travel to Florida or Mississippi or Alabama in order to go on a vacation, because the Gulf of Mexico is a great place to go in the winter. It's nice and warm and beautiful. A glacier. So am I saying that right, do you think? Let me check my pronunciation of glacier, because can you hear how I'm saying it? Let me see here. Let me get my little earbud out. Yeah, let's check the British. Ah, I see. So it's because I'm using the North American pronunciation. So glacier, basically a large river, but it's not water, it's ice and snow. It obviously moves a lot more slowly, but this is a glacier. I think if you're in Britain, you would say glacier. I probably say both, but glacier just rolled off my tongue. I think that's the pronunciation I am most familiar with. So you obviously need to go really far north or maybe really far south. But if you see something like this, you're probably in Norway or Greenland or Iceland, and you will, or northern Canada, and you will see a glacier, a slow moving river of ice and snow. And then of course, a beach. I think we're all familiar with what a beach is. If you go to the ocean or if you go to a lake, and if it has a sandy shore like this, we call this area a beach. We actually have rocky beaches in Canada as well, where there's small rocks. But traditionally, when people think of a beach, they think of a place like this, a place where there is sand, where there is sun, where you can play volleyball on the beach, you can play frisbee, you can lay on the beach. If you like basking in the sun, there's a phrase from last week. But a beach is a very nice place to go. and then canal. So this is an interesting one because this is a lesson about natural places. And I realized as I was doing the lesson that this is not natural. A canal is not natural. A canal is what we would say is man-made. So a canal is a deeper area of water where boats can go that usually connects one place to another. In Canada, there is a canal that connects Lake Ontario to Lake Erie. It's called the Welland Canal. So this slide doesn't belong in this lesson. A canal is not man-made, or is not natural. A canal is man-made. So, oops, a small mistake. A little bonus slide for you. A canal, an area that connects two bodies of water that's made by people. Now, it is someplace to visit. It's fun to go to the Welland Canal and watch the really large boats go through. I do enjoy that. So, a canal. A volcano. A volcano is something that is either dormant, which means nothing's happening, or it might erupt, which means lava, molten rock just comes out of the top. Recently, there was a volcano that erupted in Iceland, wasn't it? 2 years ago or a year ago? Very cool. I would love from a safe distance to watch a volcano erupt at night. Like this looks like it's at night. It would be very, very cool. But it is very dangerous. Not something that I should do anytime soon, but I would love to see that. It would be fun to see a volcano erupt. An island is, of course, a piece of land in the middle of a body of water, and it can be any size. Like we would say Japan is an island nation, okay, because their country is surrounded by water on every side. When you go out in a lake, there can be an island in the middle of a lake. There can be an island in the middle of a river. In fact, the river I live on, if you go down a few kilometers, there is an island in the middle of the river. But an island, an area of land in a body of water that is surrounded by water on all sides. And then a peninsula, kind of hard to explain, but you see this little piece of land here that juts out into the water. That's a good verb, juts. So a peninsula is an area of land that's surrounded on three sides or almost totally surrounded by water, but still there is a little piece connecting it to land. The funny thing is I actually live in the Niagara Peninsula. We have a lake to the north, a lake to the south, and a river to the east. So there is actually water on three sides of the piece of where I live in Canada. So we call it the Niagara Peninsula. I don't know if it's 100% a peninsula, but that is what we call it, the Niagara Peninsula, a very cool place to live. And I live pretty much in the middle of it. And then there's what's called an escarpment. An escarpment it's basically a cliff or a steep slope, and it goes for quite a while. Like when you go north of here, eventually there's an escarpment that goes down to the lake. The lake is about 2 kilometers. The escarpment is 2 kilometers from the lake. And then there's just this steep, it might be almost a 50-meter drop. And it's in some places it's a cliff, in other places it's a steep slope. And we call it an escarpment. Kind of hard to say, but the Niagara Escarpment is a very cool area to go. When we go hiking, it's often on the escarpment. We go to the escarpment to go hiking because there are a lot of hiking trails, and you can't really live on the escarpment. So it's this natural wild area where you can go and do some hiking. You can even do some camping there if you wanted to. But hey, that's the end of the formal part of this lesson. I will answer some questions both from the chat and from the forum in a bit. And then I will wrap this up. So let's see if there are any questions. First of all, looks like there are. First one is from Harvey from Taiwan. Hello, Bob. Would you want to do a special video when your YouTube channel reaches 2 million subscribers? Thanks a lot. I will probably do a live stream when that time comes. It's months away though. I think it'll probably be in about 10 months if growth stays the same as it is. From Orsi, is it better to say the edge of the cliff or the cusp of the cliff? We would say edge. Don't go close to the edge. Get back from the edge. You're too close to the edge. Like, that's how parents sound. You can tell I've gone to cliffs with kids before, because that's how I sound. Or if I went with students, like, you do not go more than, like, don't go closer than 10 meters to the edge of the cliff. That would be too dangerous and not good. Let's see here. Freddie says, what about an extinguished volcano? Yeah, I'm not sure if we would say extinguished, because that means, let's see here. Extinguished volcano. Extinct volcano is what we would say, or dormant, yes. But extinguished kind of implies that someone put water on it to put it out, so we probably wouldn't say that. But extinct, maybe that's the word you were looking for. Hafiez says escarpment sounds like scraps. Yeah, a little bit. It does. Harry300 is here. Hi, Harry. Come to my country, Bob. We have many volcanoes. You can choose one and take it home. Yes. I don't know if they would let me bring that on the plane. So that was just a joke, by the way. Let's see here. What's the volcano that spits out blue lava in Indonesia? I don't know, actually. Harry300 says, I'm very, very late today. No problem. You can never be too late for the lesson. And then, do these words mean the same? Bluff, escarpment, and cliff. Sort of. Like, an escarpment is definitely a long line of cliffs and steep things. Bluff would be, yeah, kind of like not a very steep cliff. We should get the actual definition of bluff before I get it wrong. Meaning of bluff. Yeah, it doesn't even have it. Like, because you can go on the bluffs, right? Let's see here if I can find. Yeah, a steeply rising area. So it's probably like not as steep as a cliff, but still hard to climb, probably. That's what I would say. Let me just check one thing. I think we're done, everybody. I think we're going to wrap this up. So thanks for watching. Thanks. Hopefully you were able to learn something. Remember, this lesson will come out again in a shorter format in 2 days. You should rewatch it, or at least listen to it, to help you remember what you have learned today. I do want to say thank you to everyone who was here and watching. It is fun to do these lessons. And even though this one was a bit of a repeat, I think that it's helpful a year later to help you. Know that says, thanks for the great repetition lesson with added material and the wonderful time. I wish you and your family a nice and, above all, relaxing Friday and weekend. You're just awesome. Thanks, Know That. I wish you a good weekend as well, although yours is probably starting sooner than mine. It's probably already started or close. Sam says, hey, Bob, unfortunately, I'm a little late because I was looking for online jobs. Well, hopefully, Sam, you found one. That would be good. John says, I'll watch it now. Good plan. Oh, and give a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video as well. Naomi says, thank you. John Wedge says, bye to everyone. Hafiez says, nice chatting with you, Vitor. I like it when people start to make friends in the chat. Very cool. Cool. Kaka Chen says, very fun lesson. And people are just saying bye. So I will do that as well. I do like to check if there's one remaining question. Nope, we're good. Freddie Wolf says, thanks, Bob. That was a great geography lesson. You are welcome. You are very welcome. Anyways, bye, everyone. Have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. Enjoy yourself. Be kind. Watch the Olympics. France is doing the world a huge favor by hosting. I think it's very cool. Take some time today to cheer on your country or Canada or another country. Anyways, bye. Have a good day.